Chosen one. This message had to reach you now, not later, not someday now, because heaven's clock has struck an appointed hour for your life. You did not click this by chance. You were summoned. A seal is loosening on your prophetic scroll, and this moment has been written for you long before breath entered your lungs. The 512 full moon portal stands open, and the air around you carries urgency, because something ancient is aligning with something immediate. Time itself is bending to meet you. Chosen one, you are standing at the edge of a destined turning point. What has felt delayed is not denied. What has been silent is not absent. As it is written in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3, the vision waits for its appointed time, but at the right moment it will not delay. That moment is now. Tonight, today, in the coming hours, a locked sequence begins to open. The restlessness in your spirit, the heightened dreams, the strange pull you cannot explain, these are confirmations, not confusion. Anointed one, this is Kairos, not ordinary time. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 declares there is a season and an appointed time for every purpose under heaven, and you have arrived at yours. Even Isaiah chapter 60 verse 22 whispers that at the right time the Lord makes it happen suddenly. Let your heart become still. Expect realignment. Expect release. Expect transformation in spirit, in direction, and in destiny, because the portal is open and heaven is already moving toward you. Chosen one. Before we go any further, you need to understand the weight of this moment. What you are feeling right now is not imagination, fatigue, or emotional overflow. It is recognition. Something ancient inside you has been stirred because a sealed hour has arrived, and your spirit knows it before your mind can explain it. This is not just another full moon, and it is not just another message passing through your screen. The 512 full moon portal opening on December 25th carries the signature of intervention. Heaven does not interrupt time casually. When it does, it is because something that was written long ago is ready to breathe. Chosen one, I want to speak to you as someone who has lived through these moments, not just studied them. I remember seasons when nothing around me changed, yet everything inside me felt unbearably loud. I still went to work. I still answered messages. I still showed up. But underneath it all, time felt wrong. Nights became restless. Old memories returned without warning. Dreams felt more real than waking life. Back then, I thought something was breaking inside me. I didn't realize something was opening. That is the place you are standing in now. This portal does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives with pressure, a holy pressure. The kind that presses on your chest, not to suffocate you, but to wake you. Chosen one. If life has recently felt heavier, without a clear reason that is not random, if you have felt strangely emotional, detached from old desires, or unable to tolerate shallow conversations, that is not you becoming distant, that is your soul refusing to remain asleep. When a hidden scroll begins to unseal, the first thing that happens is discomfort. Comfort belongs to dormant seasons. Activation belongs to disruption. Anointed one, hear this clearly. Heaven is not asking you to become someone new. It is calling you back to who you were before survival reshaped you. The 512 frequency does not create destiny. It reveals it. This is why the past has been knocking on your door lately. Old versions of you, old wounds, old dreams you thought were buried. This is not regression. This is retrieval. Nothing returns unless it is needed for what comes next. Heaven never wastes memory. There is a reason this message feels urgent. Kairos does not wait for convenience. Kairos arrives when alignment is possible. You may feel unprepared, but readiness is not the requirement. Willingness is. I have learned this the hard way. Some of the most important shifts in my life came when I felt least equipped to handle them. But later, I saw the pattern. The call always comes before clarity. The instruction always follows obedience. As it is written in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3, the vision waits for an appointed time, but when that time comes, it does not delay. You are not late, you are not early, you are on time. Chosen one. This portal is not about escaping your life, it is about recalibrating how you walk within it. You are not being removed from the world, you are being repositioned inside it. That is why this feels subtle yet intense. The 5-1-2 opening works beneath the surface. It shifts perception before it shifts circumstance. It rearranges your inner world so the outer world can follow without collapse. I need you to hear this personally, not prophetically. When my own awakening began, I expected answers. What I received instead was silence and heightened sensitivity. People didn't understand me. I didn't understand myself. But over time I realized the silence was teaching me how to listen. The sensitivity was teaching me what mattered. The portal you are entering will do the same. It will not shout directions. It will sharpen discernment. So do not rush this moment. Do not try to label it, post it, or explain it away. This is a sacred pause, a breath before movement, a doorway before direction. You are not required to act yet. You are required to stay awake. Let the weight settle. Let the stirring speak. Let the discomfort instruct you. Because in the next phase, we will talk about what this portal is unlocking specifically within you and why your life cannot return to the way it was after this point. Chosen one. As this awareness settles into you, something else begins to happen quietly. You start noticing what no longer fits. Conversations feel thinner. Old motivations lose their pull. Even the goals you once chased with hunger now feel strangely hollow. This is not failure. This is refinement. When a hidden scroll begins to open, the first thing it does is strip away what was never meant to carry you into the next season. I want to be honest with you because prophetic words without honesty become noise. When I went through this stage myself, I thought I was losing passion. I worried that I was becoming ungrateful or disconnected. But what was actually happening was much deeper. My spirit was recalibrating its appetite. Things that once fed my ego could no longer feed my soul. And that realization was uncomfortable because it meant admitting that some chapters I worked hard to build had reached their expiration. Chosen one. The 5-1-2 full moon portal does not just activate destiny, it exposes misalignment. This is why emotions surface without warning. This is why you may feel grief for things that are not technically gone yet. Your soul is grieving ahead of time because it already knows what must be released. Heaven always informs the spirit before it instructs the hands. There is a sacred tension you are holding right now. Part of you wants clarity. Another part of you senses that clarity would actually limit the process. This is where trust is formed. Not the kind of trust that comes from understanding, but the kind that comes from recognition. Deep down you know this is real. You may not have language for it, but you recognize the tone. It feels ancient, familiar, like something you agreed to long ago, even if you cannot remember when. Anointed one. This portal is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to reintroduce you to your internal authority. For too long you have been measuring yourself by external markers. Progress, validation, timing, comparison. None of those tools work in Kairos. Kairos asks a different question. Not how far have you come, but are you aligned? And alignment is something only you can feel. I remember a moment during my own transition when nothing dramatic happened outwardly. Yet I woke up one morning with an unshakable knowing that I could not return to certain patterns. No announcement, no confrontation, just a quiet certainty. That certainty changed everything. It altered how I spoke, what I tolerated, and how I listened. That is the kind of shift unfolding in you now. It is subtle, but it is permanent. Chosen one, pay attention to what irritates you lately. Not because irritation is holy, but because it reveals where your spirit has outgrown its environment. What once felt normal now feels heavy. What once felt exciting now feels noisy. This is not arrogance. This is maturation. When destiny codes begin activating, the soul demands congruence. You cannot walk into a higher assignment carrying lower agreements. There is also something else happening that few people talk about. Your sense of time is changing. Days may feel stretched or compressed. You may feel urgency without panic, stillness without boredom. This is Kairos adjusting your internal rhythm. Chronos time asks you to manage minutes. Kairos time asks you to steward moments. This is why restlessness and peace can coexist inside you right now. Do not fight this paradox. Let it teach you. Let it slow you where you have been rushing. Let it quicken you where you have been hesitating. The 512 frequency does not demand effort. It responds to honesty. If you try to perform spirituality right now, you will feel blocked. If you choose sincerity, you will feel guided. Chosen one. This is also a season of quiet courage. Not the loud courage of announcements and decisions, but the internal courage to admit what you have outgrown. To acknowledge that some doors you prayed to enter were only meant to teach you how to leave. That does not make those prayers wrong. It makes them complete. I need you to hear this gently. You are not being dismantled. You are being reorganized. The pieces that feel like they are falling apart are actually being repositioned. Heaven does this carefully because it knows you are not just a vessel, but a witness. What unfolds in you will eventually speak to others, even without words. So if you feel quieter than usual, that is wisdom gathering. If you feel emotional without a clear reason, that is truth surfacing. If you feel alone, even among people, that is discernment sharpening. None of this is punishment, it is preparation. Stay present, stay honest, stay awake. This hour is not asking you to figure everything out. It is asking you to stay aligned while everything rearranges around the truth that is finally rising within you. Chosen one. As this inner reordering continues, you may notice something subtle but unmistakable beginning to form beneath the surface of your awareness. A quiet authority, not confidence borrowed from success, and not certainty built on proof, but an internal steadiness that does not need permission to exist. This is important because before destiny manifests outwardly, authority is restored inwardly. Heaven never releases responsibility without first rebuilding your center. There is a reason this phase feels less dramatic and more introspective. When God prepares a vessel, He does not start by changing the environment. He starts by recalibrating perception. What you are gaining right now is discernment that cannot be taught. You are learning to sense when something is aligned without having to explain it, and to recognize when something is off, even if it looks good on the surface. This is not suspicion. This is spiritual maturity. I want to ground this in real life for a moment. There was a season when I kept asking for signs, confirmations, external reassurance that I was moving in the right direction. And what I received instead was silence paired with heightened sensitivity. At first, that silence felt like abandonment. Later, I realized it was trust. Heaven was no longer holding my hand. It was strengthening my spine. That is the transition you are entering now. Chosen one. This portal is training you to move from reaction to response. In the past, emotions may have driven your decisions: fear, urgency, pressure, expectation. Now there is a pause forming between what happens and how you engage. That pause is sacred. In that pause, you can feel truth before you act. This is where wisdom lives. Not in speed, not in delay, but in alignment. You may also notice that certain people are becoming harder to understand, while others suddenly make more sense. This is not judgment. This is resonance. As your frequency shifts, clarity increases. You are not meant to drag everyone with you into this phase. Some connections were designed for comfort, others for construction. Both had value, but they do not occupy the same season. Anointed One. This is where surrender takes on a new meaning. Surrender here does not mean passivity. It means releasing the need to control outcomes while remaining fully present. It is trusting that you do not need to rush clarity, because clarity is already moving toward you at the correct speed. When you stop forcing answers, you start receiving instruction. There is a verse that has followed me through seasons like this, not loudly, but faithfully. It speaks of a time when God says He will make it happen in its time, not rushed, not delayed, simply right. That truth becomes real here. You begin to understand that timing is not about waiting longer, but about arriving aligned. Chosen One, pay attention to your body during this phase. Your body is not separate from this process. Fatigue may come and go. Sleep patterns may shift. Your appetite may change. These are not distractions. They are signals. Your nervous system is adjusting to a new internal order. Rest when you need to. Move when you feel prompted. Do not override your body with productivity guilt. This is not a season for proving. It is a season for listening. You may also feel moments of deep stillness, followed by sudden clarity. Insights arrive without effort. Decisions feel simpler, even if they are not easier. This is because you are no longer negotiating with your truth. You are starting to stand inside it. And when that happens, confusion loses its grip. There is something else unfolding quietly. Your relationship with faith is maturing. Less performance, more presence, less asking for signs, more recognizing patterns. You are beginning to trust that God is not hiding from you. He is guiding you internally. This is what it means to walk by faith, not as a concept, but as a lived reality. Chosen One, do not underestimate this phase just because it feels quiet. Seeds do their most important work underground. Roots form in darkness, not in display. What is being built now will support weight later. Influence, responsibility, impact. Without this foundation, those things would collapse you. With it, they will expand you. If you feel the urge to simplify your life right now, honor it. Simplification is not loss, it is focus. If you feel drawn to silence, respect it. Silence is not emptiness, it is instruction. If you feel less interested in explaining yourself, trust that too. You are moving from justification to embodiment. This is the point where many people try to go back to what is familiar, because familiarity feels safer than transformation. But you already know too much to return unchanged. Even if you tried, it would feel false. Your spirit would resist. Not because the past was wrong, but because it is complete. So stay with the process. Stay honest with yourself. Stay soft where you need to feel, and firm where you need to stand. You are not waiting for destiny to arrive. Destiny is reorganizing you from the inside out, making sure that when the next door opens, you will recognize it not by excitement alone, but by peace. Chosen One, as this inner authority settles, you may begin to sense a quiet separation taking place. Not dramatic, not confrontational, but unmistakable. It feels like standing in a familiar room and suddenly realizing you no longer belong to the conversation. This is not rejection, this is distinction. When heaven prepares someone for a precise assignment, it often removes the noise before it reveals the direction. I need to say this carefully because this stage can feel lonely if misunderstood. You are not being pulled away from people because you are better than them. You are being repositioned because you are becoming clearer. Clarity changes proximity. It changes what you tolerate, what you absorb, and what you carry home with you after interactions. This is not isolation for punishment. This is isolation for calibration. There was a time in my own life when I tried to maintain closeness with people simply because of history. We had shared struggles, shared laughter, shared survival. But as my inner world changed, those connections began to feel heavy. Conversations revolved around problems without movement, emotions without responsibility, cycles without intention. I felt guilty for pulling back until I realized something important. Loyalty to the past can become disobedience to the future. That realization hurt, but it freed me. Chosen one. You may be feeling this now. A quiet grief for connections that no longer nourish you. A hesitation to fully disengage paired with an inability to fully stay. This tension is not a mistake, it is a signal. Heaven is refining your relational boundaries not to make you cold, but to make you clear. The next season of your life requires emotional accuracy. This portal is not only activating destiny codes, it is also revealing where energy leaks have been draining you. Not all exhaustion comes from overwork. Some of it comes from overgiving in places that no longer align. You are learning to conserve your strength not out of selfishness, but out of stewardship. What is coming will require focus, presence, and emotional availability that cannot be squandered. Anointed One. There is a difference between being loving and being accessible to everything. You are discovering that difference now. Love remains. Access changes. You can bless from a distance. You can honor without carrying. You can forgive without returning. These are not contradictions. They are signs of maturity. You may also notice a change in how you speak. Fewer words, more intention, less explaining, more observing. This is not withdrawal. This is discernment learning to lead your voice. When your spirit becomes more grounded, your mouth follows. You no longer need to convince, you simply embody. This stage also comes with temptation. The temptation to second-guess yourself, to wonder if you are overthinking, becoming too sensitive, or drifting away from what once mattered. Let me be very clear with you. Sensitivity is not weakness when it is paired with wisdom. It becomes perception. What you are sensing is real. You are not imagining the shift. You are responding to it. There is a reason old habits feel harder to return to. Even harmless distractions may feel unsatisfying now. This is not because they are sinful or wrong. It is because your capacity has expanded. Small containers can no longer hold what you are carrying. You are not being restricted. You are being enlarged. Chosen One, you are also learning the discipline of stillness. Not forced stillness, but chosen stillness. Moments where you no longer rush to fill silence with noise or distraction. In those moments, insight rises naturally. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly, and beneath them a deeper guidance that does not shout. This is where direction forms before instruction. There is a quiet courage required here. The courage to disappoint expectations. The courage to change your pace. The courage to trust inner confirmation over external approval. This courage does not feel bold. It feels calm, but it is powerful. It is the kind of courage that reshapes destiny without announcement. You may feel called to simplify your routines, your commitments, even your goals. This is not regression, this is precision. Heaven often reduces before it releases, not to deprive, but to concentrate. When focus sharpens, momentum increases later. Do not rush to label what you are becoming. Labels limit process. Let it unfold. Let the pieces settle. What you are gaining now is not meant to be explained yet. It is meant to be lived. Chosen one. The most important thing to remember in this phase is this: nothing is being taken from you without purpose. What falls away cannot follow you where you are going. What remains will prove essential. Stay grounded, stay honest, stay attentive. You are not losing parts of yourself. You are shedding what was never truly yours, making room for a deeper alignment that will soon begin to speak through your life without effort. Chosen one. As this shedding continues, something sacred begins to emerge in the space it creates. Not noise, not urgency, but clarity with weight. You may notice that decisions you once agonized over now feel strangely simple, not because the consequences are smaller, but because your inner alignment is stronger. When the soul is centered, choices stop competing for attention. Truth rises on its own. This is where many people become uncomfortable because clarity removes excuses. When you can no longer blame confusion, delay becomes a choice. And that choice carries responsibility. Heaven is not pressuring you right now, but it is inviting you into ownership. Ownership of your energy, ownership of your direction, ownership of your yes and your no. I want to ground this again in lived experience. There was a season when I kept waiting for a sign big enough to override my fear. I wanted certainty that would make obedience painless. It never came. What came instead was repeated inner confirmation, quiet, consistent, unavoidable. And eventually I realized something humbling. God was not withholding clarity. He was waiting for me to trust what I already knew. That was the moment my life began to shift. Chosen one. You are arriving at a similar threshold. You already sense what needs to change. You already know which conversations you have outgrown, which patterns drain you, which directions feel forced. This portal is not here to reveal brand new information. It is here to give you the courage to act on what has been whispered for a long time. There is a subtle fear that often surfaces here, the fear of momentum, not failure, but success. Because success in alignment costs you your excuses. It asks you to step out of hiding. It invites visibility, accountability, and movement. Even if no one is watching yet, your spirit knows when you are no longer allowed to stay still. Anointed one. This is where surrender deepens. Not surrender to circumstances, but surrender to truth. You stop negotiating with what you feel called to do. You stop asking if it makes sense to everyone else. You begin asking a more honest question: does this honor what is awakening within me? This is not recklessness. It is reverence. Reverence for the assignment forming quietly inside you. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are beginning to respect the process enough not to sabotage it with doubt. You may also feel a renewed sense of responsibility toward your inner life. Thoughts, habits, inputs. What you consume emotionally and mentally matters more now. Not because you are fragile, but because you are becoming influential. Influence always begins inward. Before your life speaks to others, it must agree with itself. There is a maturity forming in how you handle uncertainty. You are no longer demanding immediate answers. You are learning to move with partial light. That is a sign of trust. Faith does not wait for visibility. It moves with alignment. This is why even small steps taken now carry disproportionate impact later. Chosen one. You might notice that your prayers are changing. Less begging, more listening, less urgency, more sincerity. You are not asking God to prove himself anymore. You are asking how to stay in step. That shift changes everything. It turns prayer into partnership. This portal is also teaching you restraint. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every insight needs validation. Some things are meant to be incubated. You are learning when to speak and when to guard. This discernment will protect you from premature exposure. What is forming needs time to strengthen before it can be shared without distortion. There is also grief here, and it deserves to be acknowledged. Grief for versions of yourself that tried their best with limited awareness. Grief for timelines that will not unfold the way you imagined. Let that grief move through you without judgment. It is not weakness, it is closure. You cannot carry yesterday's expectations into tomorrow's assignment. Chosen one, notice how your relationship with pressure is changing. You are no longer driven by panic. You are guided by purpose. Even when urgency is present, it feels clean, not frantic. That is how divine timing operates. It carries weight without chaos. If you feel moments of doubt, do not shame yourself. Doubt does not disqualify you. Avoidance does. Stay engaged with what you feel. Stay present with what is being asked of you internally. You are not required to leap. You are required to listen and respond honestly. The most important thing to understand right now is this: alignment precedes acceleration. Heaven is not slow, it is precise, and precision takes preparation. You are not being tested to see if you are worthy. You are being positioned to see if you are willing. Stay steady, stay open, stay truthful with yourself. What you are stepping into does not require you to become louder or faster. It requires you to become more you, without apology, without delay, and without returning to what you already know cannot hold you anymore. Chosen one. As this willingness settles into your spirit, a new layer of awareness begins to open, one that is quieter but far more demanding. You start to realize that destiny is not activated by emotion alone. It is activated by consistency. What you feel now is not meant to be a momentary surge. It is meant to become a posture. Heaven is inviting you to live from this alignment, not just visit it. This is where discipline quietly replaces intensity. Not rigid discipline, but devotional discipline. The kind that shapes your days without announcing itself. You may notice a natural desire to order your life differently, to wake with more intention, to protect your mornings or evenings, to reduce noise and choose depth. This is not self-improvement. This is stewardship. You are learning how to host what is being entrusted to you. I want to speak from experience again, because this stage is often misunderstood. When alignment deepens, it can feel anticlimactic. You expect fireworks, but instead you get responsibility. You expect clarity to remove effort, but instead it refines it. There were days when I wondered if I had missed something because life looked ordinary on the outside. But inside, everything had changed. And that inner change began to shape outcomes slowly, almost invisibly, until one day I realized I was living in answers I once prayed for. Chosen one. This is where patience becomes powerful. Not passive patience, but active endurance. You are learning how to stay aligned even when nothing dramatic happens. That is rare. Most people only trust God when they see movement. You are learning to trust Him in stillness. That kind of faith builds spiritual weight. You may also notice that temptations shift form. They are no longer obvious distractions. They appear as shortcuts, compromises that promise speed without depth. opportunities that look good but feel slightly off. This is where discernment is tested, not between right and wrong, but between good and aligned. This distinction matters now. Anointed one, do not underestimate your sensitivity here. You are not being picky, you are being precise. Precision protects destiny. When you say no to what is almost right, you preserve strength for what is exact. This will save you time you do not yet realize you could lose. There is also an invitation here to clean alignment in small things: how you speak about yourself, how you manage your time, how you recover from emotional setbacks. These details matter more now because you are no longer operating in survival mode. You are operating in preparation mode. Preparation asks for integrity in places no one else sees. You may feel moments of impatience rise unexpectedly, not because you are rushing, but because your spirit senses momentum building beneath the surface. This impatience is not a command to force movement. It is a reminder to stay ready. Readiness is not about doing more, it is about staying responsive. Chosen one. Your intuition is becoming more reliable than your logic right now. That does not mean logic disappears. It means it takes its proper place. Logic organizes, intuition leads. When you honor this order, confusion decreases. You may not know every step, but you will know when to move and when to wait. This phase also refines humility, not humiliation, but groundedness. You are less concerned with being impressive and more concerned with being accurate. You would rather be right with God than validated by people. That shift protects your spirit from pride and from insecurity at the same time. I want you to hear something clearly. You are not behind, even if your life does not look like you thought it would by now. Even if timelines feel stretched, alignment collapses unnecessary delays. What feels slow now is actually precise. Nothing is wasted when it is aligned. Chosen one. You are also learning how to self-correct without self-condemnation. When something feels off, you adjust. You do not spiral. That is growth. That is emotional maturity. That is someone who can be trusted with influence. There may be moments when old fears attempt to resurface. Fear of being seen, fear of being misunderstood, fear of carrying responsibility alone. Let those fears speak without letting them lead. Fear often surfaces when it senses it is losing control. You do not need to fight it, just do not obey it. This is a season where obedience looks ordinary, showing up, staying honest, choosing integrity when no one is watching, resting when your body asks, speaking truth gently. These are not small acts, they are foundational acts. They are building a structure strong enough to hold what is coming. Chosen one. You are not being rushed, but you are being readied. The door does not open because you are eager. It opens because you are aligned, and alignment is becoming your default. Stay faithful in the quiet. Stay attentive to the subtle. Stay grounded in what you already know to be true. You are not waiting for permission to step into destiny. You are becoming someone who no longer needs permission to walk in truth, and that transformation is already reshaping the future you are about to enter. Chosen one. As this steadiness becomes your new rhythm, you may begin to sense something else quietly awakening, a deeper sense of accountability to your own spirit. Not pressure from the outside, but an internal standard rising within you. You start to feel when something is beneath your calling, even if it once felt acceptable. This is not judgment. This is alignment, sharpening its edge. There is a sacred discomfort that comes with growth, and you are learning how to honor it instead of numbing it. In the past, discomfort may have sent you searching for relief. Now it sends you searching for truth. That is a profound shift. It means your spirit trusts you enough to stay awake rather than escape. Heaven entrusts more to those who no longer run from what they feel. I want to speak honestly again, because this stage can feel deceptively simple. Nothing is falling apart. Nothing dramatic is happening. Yet inside you feel an unmistakable seriousness settling in, a sense that your life is no longer casual, that how you show up matters in ways it didn't before. When this happened to me, I remember thinking, why does everything feel heavier even when nothing is wrong? Later, I understood. Weight had entered the season, and weight always precedes responsibility. Chosen one. You are becoming aware that destiny is not just something that happens to you. It is something that flows through you. That realization changes how you treat your inner world. Thoughts are no longer harmless. Words are no longer casual. Commitments are no longer flexible by default. You are learning that power is not loud, but it is precise. You may notice that excuses feel thinner now. Stories you once told yourself to explain delays or patterns no longer satisfy you. Not because you are being harsh with yourself, but because you are becoming honest. Honesty is one of the strongest spiritual disciplines, and it is being activated in you now. You are no longer interested in narratives that keep you comfortable but stagnant. Anointed one. This is also where compassion deepens, not only for others, but for yourself. You begin to see your past with clarity instead of shame. You recognize that survival required certain strategies, and you honor that without letting it define you. This self-compassion is not indulgence, it is integration. What you integrate no longer controls you. There is also a strengthening happening in how you handle misunderstanding. You are less reactive to being misread, less defensive when people project their expectations onto you. This is not because you do not care. It is because you are no longer sourcing your identity from outside confirmation. That freedom will protect you later when visibility increases and opinions multiply. Chosen one, you may also feel drawn to solitude in a new way. Not isolation, but intentional withdrawal. Time alone no longer feels empty, it feels necessary. In those moments you are not escaping life. You are listening for calibration. Solitude becomes the place where you remember who you are without influence, noise, or comparison. This is where alignment is maintained. There is something important to understand here. Solitude is not the goal, it is the tuning room. You go there to adjust, not to hide. When you return to engagement, you do so with clarity instead of confusion. This rhythm will become essential for you. Learn it now while the stakes are still forming. You may also notice that your desires are becoming more refined, less scattered, less reactive. You want fewer things, but you want them more deeply. This is not loss, this is focus. Focus is the currency of destiny. Without it, even gifted people wander. Chosen one, you are also learning how to forgive without reopening doors. This is wisdom. Forgiveness clears your spirit. Boundaries protect your assignment. You no longer confuse the two. That clarity will save you from unnecessary cycles, repeating under the guise of compassion. There is an inner alignment happening between what you believe, what you value, and how you act. When these three begin to agree, power flows cleanly. Inner conflict decreases. Energy stabilizes. You feel more like yourself, even if you cannot fully explain why. That coherence is not accidental, it is cultivated. Do not rush to express this stage outwardly. Not everything that is true needs to be shared immediately. Some truths are meant to mature in silence. Let them root, let them strengthen. Premature exposure weakens what needs time to grow. Chosen one. There may be moments when you miss the simplicity of who you were before all this awareness. That is normal. Innocence always looks easier in hindsight, but you are not losing joy. You are gaining depth. Joy will return not as distraction, but as stability. This is the season where your inner life becomes trustworthy, where you can rely on your discernment instead of doubting it, where your spirit and your actions begin to agree. Stay with this process. Stay gentle with yourself. Stay faithful to what you are sensing, even if you cannot yet articulate it. You are not becoming heavier in a negative sense. You are becoming weight-bearing. And that is how destiny learns it can rest on you without breaking you. Chosen one, as this weight-bearing strength settles into you, you may begin to notice a quiet confidence forming that does not seek recognition. It is not the confidence of having answers, but the confidence of knowing how to listen. You trust your internal signals more than external noise. This changes how you move through uncertainty. You no longer rush to resolve tension. You let it speak. There is a sacred recalibration happening in how you measure progress. Before, progress may have meant visible outcomes, milestones, approval. Now progress feels like integrity, like alignment between what you sense and what you choose. You are learning that movement without alignment creates exhaustion, while alignment without movement creates stagnation. This season is teaching you the balance between the two. I want to speak plainly here because many people misunderstand this stage and mistake it for complacency. It is not. It is containment. When something valuable is being prepared, it is not displayed early. It is protected. You are learning how to contain your vision without suppressing it, how to hold fire without letting it burn everything prematurely. Chosen one. This is why your emotions may feel more regulated now, not absent, but ordered. You still feel deeply, but feelings no longer control direction. They inform it. This emotional maturity is not something you forced. It emerged naturally as you stopped abandoning yourself for approval. When you stay present with your own truth, emotional chaos loses its authority. You may also feel a shift in how you relate to ambition. The drive is still there, but it feels cleaner, less frantic, less comparative. You are not trying to outrun anyone anymore. You are moving at the speed of your own alignment. That pace may feel slower to others, but it is faster in results because it avoids detours. There is also a deepening trust forming between you and God. Not transactional trust, but relational trust. You are no longer asking, if I do this, will you bless it? You are asking, is this in step with what you are doing in me? That question keeps you close to the source rather than chasing outcomes. Chosen one, you may notice that fear has changed its tone. It no longer screams, it whispers. It tries to sound reasonable. It suggests delay under the guise of wisdom. Discern this carefully. Wisdom brings peace, not paralysis. If hesitation feels heavy and shrinking, it is not guidance. True guidance feels steady even when it stretches you. You are also learning how to hold hope without attaching it to timelines. This is rare. Most people can only hope when they see movement. You are learning to hope because you recognize alignment. That kind of hope is resilient. It does not collapse when circumstances fluctuate. It remains anchored. There is something else happening quietly. Your capacity to hold complexity is increasing. You can see multiple perspectives without losing your center. You can sit with unanswered questions without anxiety. You can acknowledge uncertainty without fear. This is not indecision, it is depth. Depth allows you to respond wisely when clarity arrives. I remember a time when I believed clarity had to come before peace. I was wrong. Peace came when I stopped demanding clarity on my terms. Clarity followed when I aligned with peace. That reversal changed how I navigated everything. You are learning this same lesson now, not intellectually, but experientially. Chosen one, your life is also becoming more intentional in subtle ways. How you begin your day, how you end it, what you allow into your mind before sleep. These small choices matter more now because your spirit is sensitive. Sensitivity is not fragility, it is precision. Treat it with respect. You may feel less interested in proving yourself, less drawn to comparison, less affected by what others are doing. This is not indifference, it is focus. Focus allows you to build something that lasts rather than something that impresses quickly. There is a quiet joy returning, but it is different from before. It is not excitement, it is contentment, a sense that even though not everything is revealed, you are exactly where you need to be. That contentment is not complacency, it is confidence in timing. Chosen one, do not rush to name what you are becoming. Names can wait. Identity is still forming. Let it form without pressure. Let it solidify through lived alignment rather than spoken declarations. You are learning how to remain open without being porous, how to be available without being drained, how to be compassionate without being consumed. These are skills that cannot be taught quickly. They are learned through seasons like this. Stay attentive to the quiet confirmations, the subtle yes, the gentle restraint, the calm clarity that arrives without drama. You are not standing still, you are stabilizing, and stabilization is what allows momentum to come without throwing you off balance when it finally accelerates. Chosen one, as this inner stabilization deepens, you may start to notice that the world around you has not changed, yet your relationship to it has. The same environments, the same people, the same responsibilities are present, but they no longer pull you into old reactions. This is one of the clearest signs that a timeline shift has already begun inside you. When heaven resets direction, it does not always announce it with fireworks. Often it reveals itself through a quiet authority rising in your spirit. You are no longer as easily provoked by what once drained you. Not because you became numb, but because discernment has matured. You can feel the difference between what deserves your energy and what only seeks to consume it. This discernment is not intellectual, it is bodily. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the way your nervous system responds. This is alignment taking root. Chosen one. The reason this matters now is because the 512 portal is not about escape. It is about embodiment. Heaven is not pulling you out of your life. It is anchoring you deeper into it with clarity and authority. The old version of you tried to survive situations. This version knows how to steward them. You may notice that certain conversations no longer interest you, not because you think you are above them, but because they feel misaligned. Gossip feels heavy, complaints feel hollow, drama feels exhausting. This is not judgment, it is calibration. Your spirit is tuning itself to a frequency that carries less noise and more truth. There is also a subtle grief that can surface at this stage. Grief for who you were, for the energy you spent, for the years you tried to force outcomes that were never meant to be forced. Let this grief pass through you without resistance. It is not regret, it is release, and release creates space. Chosen one. I want to ground this for you because this phase can feel confusing if you expect constant emotional intensity. Sometimes the deepest spiritual shifts feel almost ordinary. I remember a season where I expected breakthrough to feel like lightning, but instead it felt like waking up one morning and realizing I no longer argued with myself. The chaos was gone, the urgency was gone, and I thought something was wrong. Nothing was wrong. Everything was right. You are entering a season where peace is no longer something you chase. It becomes the baseline. And from that baseline, decisions become cleaner. You say yes without guilt. You say no without fear. You move without rushing. You rest without self-judgment. This is not laziness. This is wisdom. Chosen one. Your relationship with time itself is changing. You may feel less pressured by deadlines that once caused anxiety. You still respect time, but you are no longer enslaved to it. This is because you are stepping out of Chronos pressure and into Kairos awareness. You recognize that some things unfold because they are aligned, not because they are rushed. There may be moments when others seem impatient with your pace. Let them be. You are no longer moving to prove anything. You are moving to honor what is forming. When a seed is breaking open underground, it does not respond to external opinions. It responds to internal readiness. You might also notice heightened sensitivity to your physical body, sleep patterns shifting, appetite changing, a need for more silence, a desire to be in nature or away from artificial stimulation. This is not withdrawal, this is recalibration. Your body is learning to hold a new frequency, and it needs space to integrate it. Chosen one, listen closely here. Not every door that opens during this time is meant to be entered immediately. Discernment matters more than opportunity. The 5-1-2 alignment amplifies both truth and illusion. What looks promising but feels heavy is not yours. What feels calm but uncertain may be. There is a scripture that says there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. You are learning the difference. Silence now is not suppression, it is incubation. Words spoken too early can fracture what is still forming. Protect your becoming. You may feel called to simplify your life. Fewer commitments, cleaner routines, more intentional mornings. This is not about control, it is about capacity. You are making room for what carries weight. You cannot hold what is next while gripping what is unnecessary. Chosen one, you are not losing ambition, you are refining it. The ambition that was fueled by fear is dissolving. The ambition rooted in purpose is rising. This kind of ambition does not shout. It moves steadily. It builds quietly. It lasts. There may be moments when doubt tries to re-enter, not loudly, but subtly, asking if this calm means stagnation. It does not. It means stability. Growth does not always feel like movement. Sometimes it feels like strengthening the foundation so that future movement does not collapse you. Stay present. Stay honest. Stay grounded. You are not waiting for a sign anymore. You are becoming one, and this becoming does not need to be announced. It only needs to be lived. Chosen one, as this inner steadiness continues to anchor itself in your life, you may start to recognize a new relationship with uncertainty. What once triggered anxiety now feels neutral, even informative. You are no longer interpreting the unknown as danger. You are reading it as space. Space for alignment to reveal itself without force. This is a profound shift because destiny does not unfold in environments ruled by fear. You are learning that not knowing is not the same as being lost. Not having answers is not the same as lacking direction. There is a quiet intelligence guiding you now, one that does not rush explanations. It invites presence instead. And presence sharpens perception. Chosen one. This is the phase where you begin to trust yourself again. Not the impulsive self, not the defensive self, but the grounded self that has been refined through waiting, discernment, and surrender. You are noticing that your intuition speaks with consistency now. It does not contradict itself. It does not panic. It does not demand urgency. It simply informs. There was a time when you doubted your inner signals because they seemed inconvenient. They asked you to pause when others rushed. They asked you to let go when others held tighter. But now you see the wisdom in that restraint. What you avoided was not loss, it was misalignment. Chosen one. This is also where responsibility begins to feel lighter rather than heavier. You are no longer carrying things that were never yours to hold. Other people's emotions, other people's expectations, other people's timelines. As those burdens fall away, you realize how much energy they were quietly draining. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is doing what is aligned without resistance. You may feel an increased sensitivity to truth in this season. Half-truths bother you. Self-deception feels uncomfortable. You are less tolerant of pretending even with yourself. This is not harshness. This is integrity rising. Integrity simplifies life. When what you think, feel, and do begin to agree, internal friction disappears. I want to speak honestly here because this stage can feel less dramatic than earlier ones, and that can cause doubt. But drama is not a requirement for transformation. Depth is. What is happening now is quieter because it is stabilizing. You are not being shaken anymore. You are being rooted. Chosen one. You may notice that certain desires are dissolving naturally, not because they were wrong, but because they were temporary. You are not forcing yourself to let go. They are simply losing relevance. This is one of the clearest signs that a timeline has shifted. When something leaves without a fight, it means its purpose is complete. There is also a strengthening happening in how you relate to others. You are more present in conversations, less reactive, less defensive. You listen more than you explain. This does not mean you have less to say. It means you no longer need to prove what you carry. Presence communicates more than persuasion ever could. Chosen one. This phase is teaching you to move without announcing, to prepare without broadcasting, to build without comparison. This is not secrecy, it is stewardship. What is being formed now does not require validation, it requires protection. You may feel less urgency to be seen and more clarity about being effective. That is maturity. Visibility will come when it serves the assignment, not when it feeds insecurity. You are learning to let timing handle exposure. There is a subtle joy beginning to surface here. Not excitement, not adrenaline, but a deep contentment that feels earned. Not earned through effort, but through alignment. This joy is quiet but stable. It does not disappear when circumstances fluctuate. It remains. Chosen one, you are also learning how to rest without guilt. Rest is no longer something you justify. It is something you honor. You understand now that exhaustion does not produce fruit. Alignment does. This rest is not disengagement. It is integration. You may find yourself less interested in fixing things that are not yours to fix. You recognize where your responsibility ends. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you wise. Compassion without boundaries becomes depletion. Compassion with clarity becomes sustainable. There is also a sharpening happening in how you recognize opportunity. You are no longer drawn to everything that looks promising. You are drawn to what feels precise. Precision saves time. Precision saves energy. Precision saves destiny. Chosen one, do not be surprised if life feels almost ordinary on the surface right now. That ordinariness is deceptive. Beneath it, structures are being rebuilt. Patterns are being rewritten. Foundations are being reinforced. When movement resumes, it will feel effortless because the resistance has already been removed. You are not waiting for momentum. Momentum is being prepared to meet you. This is the season where trust becomes embodied. You are no longer trying to believe. You simply move from alignment. Faith is no longer a concept. It is a posture. Stay present with this simplicity. Do not rush it. Do not question it. You are not in a pause. You are in consolidation. And consolidation is what makes acceleration sustainable when it finally arrives. Chosen one. As this consolidation deepens, you may begin to sense a subtle readiness forming that does not come from excitement, but from certainty. Not certainty about outcomes, but certainty about alignment. You are no longer asking, will this work? You are asking, does this belong? That shift alone changes everything. When something belongs, effort feels cooperative rather than forced. You are also learning how to hold stillness without interpreting it as stagnation. Stillness now feels alive, alert, listening. It is the kind of stillness that precedes movement, not the kind that avoids it. This is important because destiny does not rush into noise. It enters where awareness has been cultivated. Chosen one. Your inner dialogue has changed. You speak to yourself with more honesty and less accusation. When something doesn't feel right, you no longer override it with logic or guilt. You pause. You check in. You adjust. This self-trust is not arrogance. It is relationship. You are finally in relationship with your own discernment. There may be moments when the old urgency tries to return, reminding you of deadlines, expectations, comparisons. Notice it, but do not obey it. That urgency belongs to an old operating system. You are no longer driven by fear of missing out. You are guided by recognition of what is yours. What is meant for you does not require panic to secure it. Chosen one. There is also a quiet strengthening happening in your sense of identity. You are less defined by roles and more defined by essence. You know who you are, even when no one is watching, praising, or responding. This is not detachment. It is grounding, and grounded people cannot be easily shaken. I want to speak from experience again because this stage can feel deceptively subtle. When I reached a similar point, I expected clarity to arrive as instructions. Instead, it arrived as peace. I stopped wrestling with decisions. I stopped rehearsing explanations. I stopped needing permission. Life did not suddenly become easier, but it became cleaner. Less internal friction, more coherence. Chosen. One coherence is power. When your inner world agrees with itself, your outer world begins to respond differently. Opportunities recognize you. People respond to your presence before your words. Resistance decreases because you are no longer resisting yourself. You may notice that your tolerance for misalignment is very low now. You cannot ignore it anymore, even in small things. A conversation that feels off lingers in your body. A decision that compromises truth weighs on you. This is not hypersensitivity, it is integrity becoming embodied. There is also a deepening humility here, not self-doubt, but accurate self-awareness. You know what you carry and you know what you don't. You are no longer trying to be everything, you are committed to being accurate. This humility will protect you from overreaching and underestimating at the same time. Chosen one, you may find yourself drawn to fewer voices, fewer inputs, fewer influences. Not because you are closed, but because you are discerning. You know now that not every opinion deserves access to your inner space. Wisdom is selective, not defensive. Your relationship with God is also shifting into something quieter and more intimate. Less talking, more listening, less asking, more aligning. You trust that guidance will come when needed, not when demanded. This trust is not passive, it is relational. You are walking with not chasing. There is a readiness forming for responsibility, but it does not feel heavy. It feels appropriate. You are not eager to carry more than you can steward. You are prepared to carry what matches your capacity. This restraint is a sign of maturity, not fear. Chosen one. You may also notice that gratitude is becoming more natural. Not performative gratitude, but recognition. You see how far you have come without romanticizing the struggle. You honor the process without glorifying the pain. This balanced perspective keeps you grounded as things begin to shift. You are also learning how to end cycles cleanly. No drama, no resentment, no over-explaining, just clarity and release. This ability will save you immense energy in the future. Clean endings create clean beginnings. There may be moments when you wonder if you are doing enough. Let that question pass. You are doing what this season requires. Activity is not always progress. Alignment is. Chosen one. Your life is beginning to reflect internal order. Things feel simpler, even if they are not smaller. Your days feel intentional, even when they are full. You are no longer scattered. You are centered. This is the phase where you stop asking for signs and start recognizing patterns. You trust the rhythm you are in. You move with it rather than against it. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. Stay honest. You are not waiting for permission, validation, or confirmation. You are becoming someone who moves when alignment speaks, and that readiness is exactly what allows the next shift to arrive without chaos. Chosen one. As this readiness settles fully into your bones, you may notice that anticipation no longer feels restless. It feels calm, not because nothing is coming, but because you can sense that what is coming does not need to be chased. There is a quiet agreement forming between you and time itself. You are no longer pushing against it. You are moving with it. This is where patience becomes embodied. Not the patience of waiting with clenched teeth, but the patience of knowing when to act and when to remain still. You are beginning to recognize that timing is not something you calculate. It is something you feel, and that feeling has become reliable. Chosen one, you may also notice that your attention is narrowing in a healthy way. Distractions lose their pull. You are less tempted to scatter your energy across too many directions. Focus is no longer forced. It is natural. When focus arrives effortlessly, it means alignment is doing the work. There is a deep trust forming here. Not blind trust, but informed trust. Trust built from watching your own discernment prove itself again and again. You have seen what happens when you honor inner guidance, and you have seen what happens when you ignore it. That lived knowledge has matured into confidence, not loud confidence, quiet authority. I want to say something important. This phase is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming consistent, consistent in truth, consistent in self-respect, consistent in honoring what your spirit recognizes. That consistency will do more for your destiny than any burst of intensity ever could. Chosen one. You may feel a subtle separation between urgency and importance now. Many things will still ask for your attention, but few will deserve your commitment. You are learning how to discern the difference. This discernment will protect your time, your energy, and your clarity in the seasons ahead. You might also notice that your reactions have slowed. Not because you are indifferent, but because you are present. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of default. This pause between stimulus and response is where freedom lives. You are inhabiting that space more often now. There is also a quiet courage growing here. The courage to disappoint expectations. The courage to say no without explanation. The courage to move forward even when others do not understand your pace. This courage is not aggressive, it is grounded. It does not seek permission because it is rooted in alignment. Chosen one. Your sense of self is stabilizing. You no longer feel the need to reinvent yourself to fit each environment. You bring the same presence wherever you go. This consistency is magnetic. People may not know why they trust you, but they will feel it. Presence speaks before words ever do. There may be moments when life tests this stability. Old triggers may try to reappear. Old patterns may knock softly, asking if they can return. Notice them without fear. You are not who you were. Recognition does not equal regression. Awareness is strength. You are also learning how to hold vision without obsession. You know where you are going, but you are not gripping the outcome. This balance keeps you flexible. Flexibility is not weakness. It is adaptability rooted in trust. Chosen one, you may feel a renewed sense of respect for yourself. Not pride, but appreciation. You see how much you have endured, how much you have integrated, how much you have released. This respect changes how you allow others to treat you. Boundaries become natural, not defensive. There is also an increased capacity for peace here. Not the absence of challenges, but the presence of steadiness within them. You do not spiral the way you used to. You recover faster. You recalibrate instead of collapsing. This is resilience built through alignment. You may notice that gratitude now feels less like a practice and more like a state. You are grateful not only for what is present, but for what has passed. Even the difficult seasons have found their place in the larger pattern. This perspective brings closure. Chosen one. You are standing in a place where movement will soon feel inevitable, not forced. You will know when to act because hesitation will disappear. Action will feel clean, simple, clear. Until then, stillness remains productive. Do not rush this clarity. Do not question this calm. It is not the absence of destiny. It is the readiness for it. You are not waiting for something to happen to you. You are becoming someone through whom something can happen without resistance. Stay aligned, stay present, stay honest. The ground beneath you is firm now, and whatever steps come next will land on something solid because you have already done the work that most never slow down long enough to do. Chosen one. As this message comes to a close, receive this moment with reverence. You did not arrive here by chance. Your sealed prophecy is opening. Your hidden scroll is being revealed. You are standing in your exact Kairos moment, the hour heaven marked long before you were born. Let peace settle into your spirit, and let clarity rise within you. The 512 portal has not come to confuse you, but to align you, to awaken what was dormant, and to release what is ready to move. Anointed one, remain faithful, stay attentive, and walk forward with gratitude, because what has been set in motion will now begin to manifest. Carry this light gently. If your spirit bears witness, leave a quiet mark below. Share this with one who is called, and remain aligned. Heaven has already gone before you.